In the Legend of Zelda series, the Temple of Time is a sacred place where the hero Link can access the Master Sword, a powerful weapon that is wielded by the chosen hero of the land of Hyrule. The Temple of Time is also associated with the Triforce, a divine artifact that grants the wishes of its wielder. However, when trying to understand the geography of the game, using the Temple of Time is not a reliable landmark to match the geography with. Why does the Temple of Time never seem to be in the same place in any of the games? Why does its appearance change from game to game? And where is that elusive Gate of Time? I am Moxie, and this is Heavy Speculation. This is the second video in the series, and this video touches upon what we spoke about in the first video. If you're interested in more fun speculative theories, consider subscribing. It's free and it helps a ton. Let's get started with a history lesson! There is fundamental information in this section that I will build upon later. The three flames imbue the goddess sword, and with Hylia's blessing, transform it into the true Master Sword. There are two gates of time in this game. The first one we encounter is at the Temple of Time in Lanayru Desert. The gate at the original Temple of Time was destroyed when Impa and Zelda had to flee Girahim. It is important to note, since the active Gate of Time was kept here, it was called the Temple of Time. The other gate is dormant in the sealed grounds. Quote, each gate is operated by the way of the divine force that dwells within the Master Sword. The realm where Link finds the Triforce looks like the Silent Realm. Since the Triforce rests in this place, I will refer to it as the Sacred Realm. Another thing to keep in mind, there are 4 more pedestals: Lanayru Desert, Faron Woods, Elden Volcano, and Skyloft. When the Skykeep falls to the sealed grounds, it connects to re-establish the Temple of Hylia. It is fundamental to understand that the Sacred Realm's entrance was the Skykeep, and is now planted in the sealed grounds. The sealed grounds houses the only Gate of Time in existence. These concepts will be built upon later. Quote, ages ago, we ancient sages built the Temple of Time to protect the entrance to the Sacred Realm. The Twilight were the people of Hyrule, wielding strong sorcery. Over many battles, the interlopers attempted to take control of the Triforce, and, using the Mirror of Twilight, sent the usurpers to the parallel world of the Twilight Realm. According to Hyrule Historia, quote, it is thought that Rauru built the Temple of Time directly over the sealed temple. However, the Zelda Encyclopedia rewrites this, confirming that, quote, the sealed temple did not survive the ages, but Rauru's Temple of Time was built where it once stood. So either the light spirits intentionally destroyed the sealed temple, or it was damaged in the battles over the Sacred Realm. Either way, this is where Rauru built the Temple of Light. It was built as a stronghold to protect the Triforce. Quote, with powers stronger than both time and the Master Sword, Rauru sealed the Sacred Realm. I speculate that Rauru has the ability to harness force, as he is a guardian of the power of the gods. It is said that it contains the only existing entrance to the Sacred Realm. There are many layers to the stronghold, as we learn in Ocarina of Time. The entrance to the Sacred Realm is sealed by the Master Sword resting in the pedestal of time. Removing the sword opens the entrance to the Sacred Realm. Only Link can draw the blade. This is sealed behind the Door of Time. The spiritual stones are needed to open the door, and are protected by the respective tribes. The last piece of the stronghold is the Ocarina of Time, which is protected by the royal family. Quote, the royal family watched over the Triforce, keeping its existence unknown to others. Once Link obtains the keys and draws the Master Sword, it opens the door to the Sacred Realm. Quote, the ancestors of Hylians created the Temple of Time. Signs of their civilization. ancient but very sophisticated, are everywhere. In Twilight Princess, the Temple of Time is in ruins and cannot be reached easily because of the dense forest surrounding it. Within the ruins, the Master Sword sleeps. Link is almost challenged by the Master Sword, asking if he's really the Chosen One. With one brave bark, the Blade of Evil's Bane lifts the curse on Link. Once again, the Master Sword becomes a link to the past. Using it in the past, the Temple of Time reveals a staircase through a stained glass window. The decorations are ornate. They are made of gold and smooth marble, sculpted. There are many statues that serve as a test. Link must find a dark nut in a full set of armor. I mean, this place is elaborate. And it's all to get a Dominion Rod and a piece of the Mirror of Twilight. It appears Link has entered a different realm. The crest of the Sage of Light decorates almost every room. This is Raru's Temple of Light, and Link is in the heart of the Sacred Realm. Raru did not build this place himself. This was all built with the help of the Oka, the titty chickens. They helped construct this temple, allegedly. Quote, the common opinion is that Hyrule was created by the Hylia people, the race closest to the gods. But, truth be told, there's also a theory saying that in ancient times, there was a race even closer to the gods than the Hylia people. And they, simultaneously with the birth of Hylia people, created a new capital. A capital that floated in the heavens. This text can suggest three things. 1. That the Sky Keep and the Temple of Hylia were built by the Oka. 2. The Oka and Raru constructed the Temple of Time in the Sacred Realm together. And 3. We may have a full capital of titty chickens to look forward to in the Tears of the Kingdom. The Temple of Time is partially damaged but still mostly stands intact. It was likely damaged during the Calamity 100 years before the events of Breath of the Wild. Outside the temple, the ground is etched with the seals of the sages. Once inside the temple, Link is faced with a large statue of Goddess Hylia. Other than that, this place is underwhelming. Now that we have established the 3 appearances of the Temple of Time, there are a few inconsistencies surrounding the architecture. Is this the same Temple of Time from game to game? Where did the Gate of Time go? Does the Temple of Time move geographically? These questions are fundamental before coming up with any explanations. Let's start with the first question. Is this the same Temple of Time? The temple resembles the Avviato Cathedral, a real 14th century church located in Italy. The inside of the temple for these games looks mostly similar, aside from some variation in style. However, there is a large circular room missing from the back of the temple in Breath of the Wild. The only games Link is able to explore the outside of the temple are Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild. However, it is missing the large circular window, and so is the small staircase leading up to it. This could be chalked up to design changes between the games. It still has most of the same details though, and most of the outside looks the same. So, to answer the first question, I'm not exactly sure if they're all meant to be the same temple. They probably are, however, a picky person might point out the details and feel otherwise. Another note for this section, the temple is in ruins during the events of Twilight Princess, and a few hundreds or thousands of years later, it's mostly in one piece. This could be a difference between timelines. Breath of the Wild does not have a confirmed placement in the timeline. That brings us to our next question. Where is the Gate of Time? In Skyward Sword, the Gate of Time is activated by the force within the Master Sword. This allows Link to traverse time as needed. It is in roughly the same area as where the Sky Keep now rests, which gave Link access to the Sacred Realm. At the end of the game, the gate just kinda disappears. Given the relationship between the Master Sword and the Gate of Time, it is possible that the gate is located inside the pedestal. This explains how time can move forward and backward. Assuming the gate was removed and built into one of the pedestals, located in Skykeep. They could have also built the Door of Time and the Ocarina with pieces of these crystals. In Twilight Princess, the Door of Time allows Link to go to a restored temple, though it looks to be made out of stone. There's not a ton of evidence toward this, but we are speculating. The Temple of Time and the Gate of Time are closely intertwined, with the temple serving as both a physical and a spiritual gateway between the mortal world and the realm of the gods. Its association with the Gate of Time further enhances its sense of mystery. And for the last question, does the Temple of Time move geographically? The sealed temple is located right next to Faron Woods and Skyward Sword. Then there's Ocarina of Time's Temple of Time. It's located in the bustling castle town. Death Mountain appears behind it. It is located next to Hyrule Field as well. In Twilight Princess, it is swallowed by the Lost Woods and it is in ruins. Finally, lining up the Temple of Time from Ocarina of Time matches perfectly with Breath of the Wild's map, down to the path to the castle and the fountain. Another dilemma is the geographical location of the Temple of Time in Twilight Princess. The consistency between Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild is mostly there. UnorigiNik lined up the maps between these two games, and Dshaynie has a great video that lines up Ocarina of Time with the 3D model that shows the architecture matching up. King Rome also refers to the Great Plateau as the birthplace of Hyrule. However, Vortexxy Gaming's theory posits that the ruins of Castletown are in Twilight Princess, as there is a fountain and several buildings in ruins around the temple. Looking at where the Temple of Time appears on the map, it just doesn't match up. Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess locations both appear in the woods, while Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild are both located in towns. The pedestal remains in the Lost Woods. Each piece of the map in Skyward Sword is not to scale. They can be cut out and juxtaposed on the map. Ocarina of Time's Castletown perfectly matches the model in Breath of the Wild. Assuming that the Great Plateau is Ocarina of Time's Hyrule Castletown, then that leaves a few questions. Why is the Great Plateau so far from Death Mountain? Why does the Master Sword rest in the Lost Woods and not the Temple of Time? Why did the pedestal get left in the Lost Woods? The more I thought about these questions, the more I confused myself. So, to summarize, the architecture generally matches up, but the details don't. The Gate of Time is either taken apart to be rebuilt into other objects manipulating time, or in one piece and inside the Temple of Time. The locations do not match up and are confusing to try to understand. Okay, so now we know everything. It's time for speculating. The Temple of Time is located in a location that has spiritual significance. In The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, the temple is built on the ruins of the Sealed Temple, which was itself on the remains of the Temple of Hylia from the time of the goddess Hylia. This suggests that the location of the Temple of Time may have been chosen for its sacred or spiritual significance, as a way of emphasizing its importance and connection to the divine. Additionally, the Temple of Time may be located in a location that is central to the geography of Hyrule. This would make it easier for those who are seeking to enter the sacred realm to reach the temple and access the Triforce. It is also possible that the Temple of Time is located in a location that is strategic from a military perspective, as it would need to be defended from those who would seek to use the Triforce for evil purposes. So different players and fans may have their own theories about its location and significance. There is a popular fan theory that was covered by Nintendo Black Crisis that the Great Plateau and the Lost Woods swap locations. He also theorizes that the Master Sword would not be able to move while resting in the pedestal. The point of moving these landmasses would be to keep the Master Sword safe in the camouflage of the Lost Woods. Dshaynie proposes that it was a divine wish by the royal family. The landmasses swapped in the Sheikah filled the crater with the divine beast. There are also some theories on online forums I have read suggesting it was rebuilt each time. It could also be that the landmasses were lifted in the air during the last calamity. In the trailers, the Deku Tree seems to be missing. In the newest trailer, Link is climbing what looks to be roots of a tree. The landmasses could have been swapped then. Personally, I don't really like this explanation. It feels like too much suspension of disbelief to have entire landmasses just picked up. Just like the Calamity, there would have been legends of these floating islands rumored somewhere around Hyrule. Someone surely would have mentioned the Great Swap when the goddesses lifted the lands. Nah, man. Looking to the amount of pedestals in Skyward Sword may be the key. There are 7 pedestals giving Link access to the Sacred Realm in total. Lanayru Desert, Faron Woods, Elden Volcano, Skyloft, and the 3 located in the Sky Keep. With this solution, the pedestal in Twilight Princess could be from Faron Woods, and the pedestal in Breath of the Wild could be from Elden Volcano. Again, there are 7. Zelda vets know the importance of this number. 7 different pedestals would lend more evidence to the Temple of Time moving, and not the pedestal, let alone large masses of land. This could also be the key to restoring the Master Sword in Tears of the Kingdom. There are 7 tears Link will likely have to collect. Given he is carrying around a vessel in the trailer, and the mural in the trailer has 7 tear-shaped objects around the deity. Speaking of which, where else have we seen tears before? The Master Sword is broken, and in the logo, looks to have a green energy coursing through it. Link must find the 7 pedestals in order to access the Sacred Realm. One possible explanation for this movement is the temple is able to shift in response to the events and circumstances of the world around it. In Skyward Sword, it is located in the sky, while in Ocarina of Time, it is located in Hyrule. In Twilight Princess, it is located in the Sacred Grove, and in Breath of the Wild, it is located in the ruins of Hyrule. This suggests that it is not a fixed location. This could also be explained by the temple being a divine beast. Forests are able to migrate. It is possible that the Lost Woods spread over time, far more likely than weird plate tectonics. After what happened during Ocarina of Time, the Temple of Time became a diversion. And what about its appearance? Well, of course, this divine beast can camouflage itself and change based on the circumstances. It's not too far of a jump to assume the Sheikah have this technology. Think about it. After all the wars fighting over the Triforce, they move the temple around because it's a target. People in search of the Master Sword would look for the Temple of Time precisely because of all the legends. So Hylia, or someone, commands it to move around. So what could happen if we unlock this divine gate temple beast? It's so stupid. But if this were true, we may be able to pilot a mini divine beast back to the games in which it's already appeared, such as going back to the era of Twilight for a specific item, or going to Castletown at the exact moment to ask Princess Zelda for the ocarina. It's an exciting prospect, isn't it? And totally a bunch of speculation. But it's fun to think about, right? Overall, the theory that the Temple of Time is a divine beast is a compelling one, offering a unique interpretation of this iconic location from the Legend of Zelda series. While it is ultimately up to individual interpretation, this theory adds depth and complexity to the lore of the games, and helps to further enrich the fantastical world of Hyrule. The Blade of Evil's Bane, the Master Sword, the sword that seals darkness, the Master Sword of Resurrection, the Legendary Sword, the Sword of Legend, the Master Sword. This legendary blade has appeared in many games across the franchise, and has become a staple in the Legend of Zelda series. What makes the Master Sword the Master Sword? Why does the Master Sword require blessings and upgrades? Why does the Master Sword appear so ravaged in Tears of the Kingdom? I am Moxie, and this is Heavy Speculation. The following theories will definitely be more crackpot. As per the title of the series, sometimes there won't be a ton of evidence. However, I feel like the Zelda community needs more fun, speculative theories to add to the conversations around these games. This series is just getting started. If you're interested in this kind of content, consider subscribing. It's free and it helps a ton. Let's get started. The goddess sword was crafted by Hylia to, quote, help protect the people of the world from evil. In Skyward Sword, Link is guided to the goddess sword by Fi. To activate the Gate of Time in the sealed grounds, Link must seek the 3 sacred flames. Deep in the ancient cistern is Farore's flame. It lengthens and sharpens the blade, making it the goddess longsword, doing twice as much damage. Within the sand ship lies Nehru's flame, which was protected by Skipper and his crew in ancient times, until the pirates stole the ship. It enhances dowsing abilities, changing from the goddess longsword into the goddess white sword. Din's flame rests within the fire sanctuary. Bathing the goddess white sword in it fills the blade with sacred light, giving it 3 times the original strength. This tempering transforms the sword into the Master Sword. Finally, Zelda, the reincarnation of Goddess Hylia, blesses the Master Sword. This transforms the Master Sword into the true Master Sword. As it stores power, the wings spread. After all the events of the game, it is set on a divine pedestal to be passed down to future heroes. In Four Swords, linking the game in A Link to the Past upgrades the Four Sword to mimic the power of the Master Sword. In Ocarina of Time, Link is tasked by Zelda to help stop Ganondorf's plan. After obtaining the 3 spiritual stones, the Ocarina of Time, and the Song of Time, the Door of Time opens to reveal the Master Sword. The sword holds Link in time for 7 years, until he is worthy of wielding the blade. Placing it back in the pedestal sends Link back to present-day Castletown. A Link to the Past requires Link going deep within the Lost Woods with all 3 light pendants. It allows Link to break the seal atop Hyrule Castle, and battle Aghanim. It has to be tempered to make its edge sharper and fills the sword with light. It's odd that the encyclopedia notes the Master Sword appearing in the Oracle series. Just like Four Swords, linking the 2 games together gives the Noble Sword powers akin to the Master Sword. But just like Four Swords, this is not the same legendary blade. The same legendary blade from A Link to the Past is found again in the Lost Woods in A Link Between Worlds. Though, this time, Link must collect the Pendants of Virtue. It is the only thing with the power to break the barrier around Hyrule Castle. Once again, the Master Sword can be upgraded using the Master Ore found in Lorule. In Twilight Princess, Link is cursed by Zant, and Zelda is not able to help him. She prompts Link to go find the legendary blade. Once again, going deep in the Lost Woods leads to the old Temple of Time, housing the Master Sword. It becomes a key to unlocking the past, and using it in the past unlocks the Temple of Time dungeon. I already made a theory about my thoughts on the Temple of Time, linked in the description below. In the Twilight Realm, the sword fuses with the power of souls. The upgrade enhances the sword, enabling Link to beat most enemies with a single blow, and also giving him the ability to cut through the dark fog. Link is able to defeat Ganondorf with an ending blow. During the credits, it is returned to the pedestal. The Tower of the Gods must be completed before getting access to Hyrule Castle in Wind Waker. Deep beneath the waves is Hyrule, frozen in a time capsule. Drawing the blade releases Ganondorf's army, and allows Ganondorf to use full magic again. The Master Sword is dulled and the power to repel evil has faded. Laruto and Fado, the sages of Earth and Wind, were murdered by Ganondorf. Link must awaken the new sages to have a chance at defeating him. Medli and Makar pray to the goddesses for the Master Sword and Link. restoring the edge, keeping it glowing with the power to repel evil. Link uses the Master Sword to deliver the final blow, turning Ganondorf into stone. This brings us to Breath of the Wild, which does not have a confirmed placement on the timeline. Unlocking the memories reveals some interesting information. In the third memory, Zelda asks,
"How proficient are you right now wielding that sword on your back? Legend says that an ancient voice resonates inside it. Can you hear it yet, hero?"
In the 17th memory, Zelda awakens her sealing power, or force, to save Link from the Guardian Stalker. Yo, I got another theory about force if you like magic and stuff. After she saves him, this happens. Let's compare that to the sound it made in Skyward Sword. It almost seems like a whimper or a plea. The sound is weak compared to Skyward Sword. Since Zelda just used her sealing powers or forces, it may have given the sword a slight buff of energy.
The sword. So he can still be saved?
Fi is able to communicate with Zelda, even if brief. The sword is returned to the pedestal. Link must once again go deep in the Lost Woods to find the pedestal. Attempting to draw the blade with less than 13 hearts will result in Link's death. After the trial of the sword, Link draws the blade. He is transported back to the Lost Woods. It glows brightly. Then, he closes his eyes as if listening for Fi. This time, it sounds like less of a plea and more like relief. The final game with the Master Sword is Tears of the Kingdom. Link is carrying it on his back in the first trailer. In the second trailer, the Master Sword is nowhere to be seen. When the delay was announced, a single camera shot sent the Zelda community into a theory and speculation-fueled frenzy. Now that we have covered the complete history of the Master Sword, where is there any indication of foreshadowing? Let's go all the way back. Oh, too far. Keep going. Okay. Demise curses Link. Okay. Now, watch the smoke very closely. Where does the smoke go? Skyward Sword was a very important game to establish much of the lore in the whole Legend of Zelda series. This simple detail would slip by most people. Like, how is this even a theory? It's subtle, especially in the afterglow of battle. It is one of the most important visual plot points in the series. Though, Fi said he was eradicated, the sword has never been the same sword again. According to page 83 of the encyclopedia, despite its long life, the Blade of Evil's Bane is not eternal. To maintain it requires sacred power from spirits, great fairies, and sages. Over the years, worthy smiths temper the Master Sword with unique materials, changing its color and shape ever so slightly. The pattern of the Master Sword losing its power to repel evil or in need of upgrades happens so many times. Heck, in Ocarina of Time, the Big Goron sword is more powerful than the legendary blade. A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds both have Master Sword upgrades. Fusing the Master Sword with soul energy is required to finish the Palace of Twilight. The Master Sword requires a blessing from the Sage of Earth and the Sage of Wind in the Wind Waker. In Breath of the Wild, it loses energy constantly. Even after beating the trial of the fucking sword? The true Master Sword possesses the light force that is the source of all life in this world. When held aloft, it gathers heavenly energy and becomes able to fire a beam known as the Skyward Strike. According to page 83 of the encyclopedia, there has only been one appearance of the true Master Sword in the series, Skyward Sword. Beyond this game is only the Master Sword. These blessings have been to continue to hold the seal on Demise's consciousness in Breath of the Wild. Maybe Fi is crying out for help because she simply cannot hold him any longer. That brings us to the Tears of the Kingdom trailer. The first thing that came to mind was the cutscene after defeating Demise. Fi says, quote, "His residual consciousness has been absorbed into the Master Sword and is now sealed away." Maybe she thought he was eradicated. Maybe Demise is still alive and well. Demise's consciousness lives inside the Master Sword. This explains the need for upgrades and blessings throughout the series. The hero must be pure of heart to draw the Master Sword, so when Link is ambushed by Ganondorf, maybe, he is able to touch it. This is the reason the Master Sword appears in Tears of the Kingdom in this way. It is never stated what would happen if someone who was not pure of heart touched it. It's always been locked behind doors or hidden somewhere in the woods. Kept safe. So if he touches it, it's tough to distinguish if it could even be repaired in this state. Demise's residual consciousness is the only logical explanation for the true Master Sword being extinguished to a mere weak form of the Master Sword, which requires various blessings and upgrades. These do not even begin to crush the power of the true Master Sword. So, what can be done? According to the Zelda Wiki, under the trivia section, quote, "At the end of Skyward Sword, because of the time travel involved, the Goddess Sword and the Master Sword exist simultaneously." The Master Sword is within the sealed temple, while the Goddess Sword is up in Skyloft. If this were true, then my original theory about the sacred flames being in Hyrule could be the answer. I mean, Sky Islands are coming back. If the sacred flames and the Goddess Sword still exist, then the true Master Sword can be forged once again. Deep within Tanagar Canyon, nestled in the northern edge of the map, is a gargantuan, mysterious structure. This puzzling location has many clues to its origin, but provides no definitive answers. Why is this place called the Forgotten Temple? What were the Guardians protecting? What purpose was the Forgotten Temple built for? I am Moxie, and this is Heavy Speculation. I'm just getting over getting sick right now, so here we go. In the comments of the Temple of Time video, many people were confused about why the Forgotten Temple was not included. This location is special, and it deserves its own theory. Though, before watching this video, watch my theory about the Master Sword. It is linked right now in the upper right hand corner. This theory will not make as much sense without understanding that theory. It's an interesting watch, and I won't be summarizing it here. go watch it. See you in 15. With that being said, the following theories will definitely be more crackpot. As per the title of the series, sometimes there won't be a ton of evidence. However, I feel like the Zelda community needs more speculation to add to the conversations around these games. If you like Zelda lore, consider subscribing to the channel. It's free and it helps a ton. Let's jump in. Apparently, there's some temple-like structure at the bottom of Tanagar Canyon. Might just be a rumor. Or not. Monkton seems to know about it, since he lost his horse Mary searching for the ruins. After completing all 120 shrines, the monk at whatever given shrine Link is at will say, "Having fulfilled our purpose, we monks bestow upon you this, the warrant of the true hero. You must now depart for the Forgotten Temple." Then Link receives a quest. Head to the Forgotten Temple, where the oldest statue of the goddess stands to see what they have left for you there. The goddess statue sits at the end of this mysterious place, and is weathered by thousands and thousands of years. Link receives the Hero of the Wild set, a cap, tunic, and trousers that were, according to legend, crafted for a hero who travels the wild. The entire canyon is covered with falling rocks and rubble. There is nothing that could have eroded this canyon. There's no river or stream at the bottom. Aside from possibly Dinral's flight path, there is nothing to cause weathering. It rains a lot, but there's nothing active enough here to suggest causation of this enormous tear in the earth. Plate tectonics could have split these two areas over thousands of years. The parts do not look split open either. This looks like an excavation. I'm not the only person who has come to this conclusion. In a theory by two guys playing Zelda, linked in the description below, they speculate that the temple was buried. I agree with this conclusion. The temple was buried and forgotten. Rocks lay at the bottom and the sides. On one side or the other of the canyon, large heaps of rocks are piled with little to no foliage or trees growing on top. The concept art has these two statues embedded in the pillars, and one above the door. It looks incredibly similar to the sealed temple. There is a symbol on one of the pillars in the art as well. This matches the Veils of Twilight that Link goes through in Twilight Princess, and Skyview Temple in Skyward Sword. Another piece of concept art is incredibly reminiscent of different facilities housing the generators from Skyward Sword. There are ceiling joists and columns acting as posts in rows down the corridor. The brick masonry uses a stretcher and header course pattern, meaning a row of long bricks followed by a row of short bricks. These are corbels, which are stone projecting inside of the walls, providing support to the structure of the roof and walls. On them are carved loft wings that are either from the Sky Era or inspired by the Sky Era. The same engraving is on the tower in Skyloft. The horizontal bands are called string courses, likely to provide additional reinforcement. The building looks like it was made to reinforce tons of weight. There are also multiple walls and structure pillars, which look to have partially given under the enormous weight of the earth. Dirt pours from the corners and piles up. There is a wall in the back of this first room. If the hole was not here, and the temple was buried, it could have tricked anyone who happened upon it. After continuing to unearth the temple, it would be easily distinguishable that the temple continues further down. So, a hole was made. Along the walls is this pattern, which is reflected in most of the architecture from the Sky era. It's at the sealed grounds, the Temple of Time, Skyloft, and the tower in Thunderhead. There are these circles along the ceiling and the top of the Forgotten Temple, which are very peculiar. When I got up close, I recognized this pattern almost immediately, being the exact same pattern we've seen on the floor leading up to Skyview Spring and the Earth Spring. Given all the evidence of these particular engravings, it is fair to conclude this area was likely built during the time before the events of Skyward Sword, around the time when the Temple of Hylia was constructed. There are several updrafts, and the presence of these suggests areas below this cavern. According to the National Cave and Karst Research Institute's website, quote, "Air movement is often the sign of a large cave. It is caused by differences in air temperature and/or barometric pressure between the cave and the surface. Air pressure inside of a cave always tries to equalize with the outside air pressure. If air pressure outside the cave is greater, air moves into the cave and vice versa. Winter air is colder and thus denser than cave air, moving down cave floors and pushing warmer air out of the cave along with the ceiling. Large caves have larger volumes of air, so as those pressure differences equalize, the air movement can be felt as a slight breeze up to a strong wind. So there's evidence of warmer air below this place, and a lot of it. There must be a lot of heat coming from below with this kind of release of pressure, considering it can maintain a consistent updraft. Caves are going to be a theme in Tears of the Kingdom. This location is very promising for caves and other explorable structures. Two guys suggest that the Forgotten Temple was built before the events of Skyward Sword, making this goddess statue predate the one at the sealed temple. However, the goddess statue has rubble behind and around it, indicating that it was placed here after the temple was built. In Skyward Sword, the goddess statue was located in Skyloft until Link wishes to eradicate Demise. Skykeep with the statue both fall into the sealed grounds. According to the encyclopedia, quote, "The sealed temple did not survive the ages, but Raru's Temple of Time was built where it once stood." Since the sealed temple did not survive, and the goddess statue did not exist in the Temple of Time, in Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, then the goddess statue must have been relocated. It's definitely not the one from the current Temple of Time, merely based on the difference in size. This statue was likely built in homage to the myth of the Sealed Temple, or the Sky era in general. Many have speculated this is the sealed grounds housing the very same goddess statue. The tree which Impa predicted to stand for millennia could even still be clinging to the walls. I agree this is the same statue, but this place is not the sealed temple. The sealed temple was intentionally destroyed and the Temple of Time was built over it. It was destroyed to hide the entrance during the Interloper War. The Skyview Spring is located in Faron Woods. Many have pointed out that it is found in Breath of the Wild as well. If we are led to believe that these are in fact the same locations, the goddess statue must have been relocated. If this were the same spring, then my theory about the Temple of Time moving would be accurate as well. This is not likely though. These springs are likely built as replicas. The goddess statue was relocated sometime between the end of Skyward Sword and before the banishment of the Twilight. The statue was relocated to the old Temple of Time. Why else would it be referred to as the Forgotten Temple? Temple being the key word here. There was already many large spaces carved out when the mining facility was made. Link never gets to enter the Temple of Time. Gaepora and Impa likely knew how important it was to preserve the statue and keep the Goddess Sword safe. Likely with the help of the Diddy chickens. The Forgotten Temple's interior was built to replicate the architecture and design of the ancient Sky era. Quote, "As with everywhere throughout Hyrule, the Guardians here are possessed by Ganon. But rather than having invaded the temple from Hyrule Castle during the Great Calamity, they were placed here long ago to protect the facility. The Guardians are immobile. None of them have legs. The ones with legs could have left during the Calamity." I feel like it's important to take a note here and remind each of you watching, my content is about heavily speculating. I try to provide evidence, but a lot of this is going on gut instinct about what the storytellers are trying to convey through the subtext. We speculate here. So, let's dive into speculation territory. Quote, "At the beginning of development, the canyon was so deeply tied to the royal family that it was called Valley of the Royal Family. I refuse to believe there's 27 guardians here simply because the royal family wanted to protect some comfy pants." According to Creating a Champion, quote, "A fortune teller predicts the revival of Calamity Ganon. King Rome begins searching for the ancient relics. The canyon was formed during an excavation, looking for the Forgotten Temple. The royal family could have been looking for the temple because it houses the Goddess Sword. So they start digging. The canyon stops at the Forgotten Temple. It does not extend any further. This is so important and an incredible revelation in terms of what this could suggest. Zelda was worried about Link hearing the ancient voice. She could have been worried for one of two reasons. Zelda is a researcher. She's very scientific in her approach. She may have been worried about Link's spiritual progress and him connecting to the sword. Or she was worried about the sword itself. If the royal family was performing these excavations for years, Zelda would have been in the loop about it. The royal family could be planning to transfer Fi into a new sword. Maybe she wants to know if Link can hear it because she is aware of the Goddess Sword's existence. In an excellent theory by Zeltic and Monster Maze, linked in the description below, they posit that Ganondorf is a lich. A lich has several requirements. The first being, the lich is a powerful magic wielder. They must have a skeletal appearance and flaming eyes, a strong motivation to live forever, and a phylactery. The phylactery anchors the lich's soul to the physical world. And in this theory, seriously go watch it, they describe that there is no limit to what the phylactery can be, and have a few creative suggestions. However, I speculate that the phylactery is the Master Sword, as it does house Demise's consciousness. If this were true, then the royal family could have been aware and concerned for Fi. They wanted a backup on hand and protected, and possibly were researching a way to transfer Fi into the Goddess Sword to be able to finally destroy the old Master Sword, severing Demise's connection to Ganondorf. On the other hand, the royal family could be completely unaware of the connection Ganondorf shares with the Master Sword, and possibly wanted to dig up the Forgotten Temple just to unearth, explore, and preserve the oldest historical remnants of Hyrule. This explanation is so unsatisfying though. This is deep in speculation territory, but the connections are solid. However, the Goddess Sword may not exist. I still refuse to believe the Guardians are placed here to protect Link's Nike kicks. assuming the Forgotten Temple is the original Temple of Time from Skyward Sword, then it is directly connected to the Lanayru mining facility. Link is never allowed to enter the Temple of Time, just to explore a very small portion of the outside. The Temple of Time is nestled between two cliffs, and the color of the rock is similar to the canyon in Breath of the Wild. In a theory by Monster Maze and Croton, they come to the conclusion that the Sheikah Tech is powered by timeshift stones. The Lanayru mining facility has the same orange and blue patterns on all of their ancient technology. The floors, walls, and ceilings all glow with those familiar colors. This raises some questions. Where did the Sheikah construct this technology? Throughout Breath of the Wild, Link uncovers the past. The people from 100 years ago were just discovering lost technology from 10,000 years ago. The divine beasts were excavated from Hyrule. The royal family was looking everywhere they could for everything they could. That also means they were looking for the facility where this technology was made. What if Hylia had a third plan to fight Demise? Foreseeing that this would go on for so many thousands of years, she created a massive amount of timeshift stones for the purpose of making guardians. There are so many timeshift stone storage facilities throughout Lanayru, making this highly possible. The Lanayru mining facility is a prime candidate for the construction of the Divine Beasts and the Guardians. This place would have been hidden, especially if it was buried. If she could see everything that was ever going to happen, then she would know about the calamity and prepare for it up to like 50,000 years ahead of time. The timeshift stones were stored from the mining facility. A small set of stairs connects to the Temple of Time. The timeshift stones could have been brought up and taken back in time, effectively duplicating the stones. This could have allowed Hylia to dupe massive amounts of timeshift stones, enough to make an army of guardians. These could have been stored until the Sheikah were able to make this technology somewhere below the Forgotten Temple. If the factory was located under the temple, it would produce a massive amount of heat and energy, more than enough to cause the updrafts. It would have made sense that the facility is located here. It's hard to reach and may require days of traversing through the canyon. Very few people in Hyrule know of its existence. The facility is likely connected through an underground set of caverns giving access to the storage facilities. The location remaining a secret would be important to the Sheikah. Quote, 10,000 years ago, the Sheikah were forced by the royal family to abandon their advanced technology. But they did not lose it entirely. This could be why the royal family was looking for the Forgotten Temple. There were undoubtedly many resources put into the excavation looking for the factory, so the ancient technology could be controlled. They had a general idea of where it was located, but just had to guess. They may have found it leading up to the events of Breath of the Wild, but were unable to thoroughly explore this location before the calamity. There's no hard evidence to prove this assertion, other than the massive presence of guardians and the similarities to the Temple of Time, geographically and spatially. This seems unlikely, but so obvious at the same time. There could be another possible explanation, far less likely than the rest. This space may have been used to seal Ganondorf away. Since the location is forgotten, the people who defeated Ganondorf 10,000 years before the events of Breath of the Wild may have placed Ganondorf here, under a sealing spell, and buried the temple. It was only after the reoccurrence of the calamity that the royal family may have reconsidered the previous generation's decisions. They may have needed to unearth this area to locate Ganondorf's body and make a new plan. The possibilities this burial of the temple insinuates are endless. And I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe. because the economy is rough and I could use all the help I could get. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.